everyone. So for today's discussion, we are going to tackle about realistic fiction. So what is realistic fiction? It refers to stories that could happen to people and animals. The protagonists of these stories are fictitious characters created by the author, but their actions and reactions are quite like of those real people. So realistic fiction is nag-refer siya sa real life sa tao, which is ang characters ani niya is tinuod nga tao, tinuod nga mga animals, and ang settings niya is naga exist yun diri sa world, which is mga real places. So lahi ra siya sa word nga fiction because ang fiction is it talks about animals nga mag-talk. So kanaang mga dili bitaw, wala bitaw naga-exist diri sa world, which is kanang naay mga magics, naay mga heroes. So manay fiction. So ang realistic fiction is lahi ra kay kanang nag-refer man siya sa realistic nga mga situations. So realistic fiction is a powerful way to help young readers gain a deeper understanding of real world challenges and relationships. So, dako kay ikatabang ang realistic fiction sa mga young readers kay naa sila kanang deeper understanding kung unsa man gyud ay ang real world para sa ilaha. So, next we have contemporary realism. It is a term used to describe stories that take place in the present time and portrays attitudes and more of the present culture. So, unlike realistic books of several decades ago, that they only depicted on happy families or mga happy moments sa usa ka bata. So, sa una, they just focus on happy moments nga mga topic. So, ang contemporary realism sa una is naga-focus lang siya sa mga happy moments nga topics. So, karon in today's contemporary realism, they often focuses on current societal issues such as death, poverty, racism, and homelessness. So contemporary books still tell of happy, funny times in children's lives, but they also include the harsh, unpleasant times that are part of many children's lives. So, ang contemporary realism sa pagkakaroon is kanaang dili lang siya about sa happy moments nga mga topics, but they include also the harsh and unpleasant times nga part na jud sa life sa usa ka bata. So kinsa man gud ari ang wala ka experience og mga harsh or unpleasant times, di ba? Nakasulay man jud ta ana nga bunalan ta sa atong ginikanan, which is part na yun na sa life sa usa ka bata, kay especially kung makasala ka, so na mabunalan jud ka. So because of the difficult nature of the issues in some realistic fiction, these books are sometimes the target of censors who argue that children need to be protected from harsh realities. So, sa niagi nga panahon, nahimo ni siyang argue sa mga censors, which is ang censors is mo na siya ang maga-release sa kanaang mga books, mga stories. Sila may maga-release ana. So, na-argue na nila that time kay ngano daw kuno nga i-include man ang mga harsh and unpleasant nga mga stories. So, gusto ko mga mangutana nga kanaang musugot ba mo nga protektahan ang inyuhang mga anak sa paglantaw ang mga harsh ug unpleasant times? Agree ba mo ana? So para sa ako dili no, kay kanaang ang usa ka bata is kinahanglan jud na maka feel jud siya what is the real world nga naga-exist bang yun na nga kanang mga harsh and unpleasant nga mga situation. So kinahanglan nga ang usa ka bata is kana ang imuhang pakit kanang let them read stories nga mga hingana kay kanaang for example ang usa ka bata is wala ka experience ana, so how come nga kanaang na siya deeper understanding about sa real world kung kana wala di siya kabalo ana nga situation ug unsa na siya nga nag-exist ba na siya. In their attempts to protect the perceived innocence of children, adults fail to face the reality of children's lives. So, in the future nga magkaanak, magkapamilya, so gusto ba ninyo nga magdako ang inyong mga anak nga ignorante? So, wala man siguro ginikana no nga gusto nga kana ang magdako ang ilang anak nga ignorante. So, literature provides a way to gain valuable perspective on these issues, to realize that they are not alone, and to experience the strategies used by characters to respond to challenging situations. So, ang literature is dako kay siya matabang sa bata, which is kana ang makagain sila kanang learning through sa mga stories sa ubang bata nga just for example naka-experience lang mo ta kung giingon ka ganina nga ang kanang mga bata nga naka-experience og mga harsh and unpleasant mga situation. So ang katong bata nga wala ka experience ato is makakuha og kana ang a strategy kung giunsa sa bata dito sa ang character, kung giunsa sa character pag-solve ang iyahang problema dito sa story. So ang gabasa nga bata is maka-gain jud siya og learning from that story. So they read for entertainment, but they also read because books provide them with hopes as they face everyday fears and epic dangers. In addition, reading about other children's challenging situations can help those are not facing these problems develop empathy. So, motong akong giingon na ang katong wala ka experience anang nga situation is makakuha siya og kanang learning on how to resolve his or her kanang situation man galing if iyahan nang ma-encounter the same sa situation sa story. World a better place in which to live. Children need to hope that is realistic to their life situations, not wishful thinking or an unlikely happy ending. So second is the story a thin disguise for a heavy-handed moral lesson. So realistic fiction often conveys values such as kindness and generosity, but children resist stories that preach. The moral should not overwhelm the story, but be a logical outcome. Next is, does the story believable? So, are the events possible even though all aspects are not probable? Sometimes, an author goes too close to the edge of the believable range to produce a more exciting, suspense-filled story, but still avoid the overuse of coincidence to resolve the plot. Next is the significance of character in realistic fiction. So how does the author reveal the character? So we can come to know the character by their actions, speech, and or appearance. So makabalot kung unsa ang kanang character no through his or her action or speech or appearance. So kung magbasa ta og kana ang books, di ba masabtan nato sa iyahang actions o sa iyahang speech nga good character siya. Kani siya is a bad character siya kay lain kay siya inistoryahan, lain kay siya og kana ang actions bati kaayo kanang bad kaayo, so makaingon ta ana nga bad siya nga character. So ato ang ma-identify kung unsa ang character. So that's the way of author on how to reveal the character of the story. So next is do the characters act and talk in ways that are consistent with their age, gender, and culture? So characters should act according sa ilahang age, gender, and culture. So lisod po no nga kanaang mag-act and talk ang kanang usa ka bata. Iyahang action is pang adult niya, bata siya. So ang character should act kung unsa man gali lang iyang age. Lisod po og kana ang bata siya unya muak siya usa ka adult, so lain pong kaayo. So mao na ang dapat nato nga i-consider. So next, do the characters grow and change in a believable manner over the course of the book? So the story should be believable until the end of the story. So mao tong kana ang naay mga readers nga makaingon jud sila nga true story man siguro ni siya. Wala murag kanang murag medyo di siya na experience na. So kana should be ang kanang bitong mahuna-huna sa readers kung ilahang basahon ang imuhang story nga dapat until the end is ang convincing kay siya, believable ang imuhang story. So lastly is, does the author portray a range of qualities for major and minor characters to avoid stereotypes and to reflect their complexity as human beings with strengths and faults? Historical overview of realistic fiction. The earliest realistic stories were didactic and intended to teach morality and manners to young readers. The characters of 1700s were wooden, lifeless boys and girls whose lives were spent good works. However, in 1719, Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe, an exciting survival story, was published for adults but became a popular book among children. So, kani si Daniel Defoe is one of the writers sa realistic fiction, which is ang kaning iyahang novel nga Robinson Crusoe is kanang one of his famous story nga it is about kanang survival nga story. So, then in 1744, John Newbery began to publish children's books of realistic fiction intended to entertain as well as to educate. So, realistic fiction is kanang not just kanang for entertainment, no? Kanang dili lang nga panglingaw-lingaw lang ang realistic fiction, kundi naga-teach pud sila og morality and good manners. So, nagyud kay kanang ma-learn from this kanang realistic fiction. So, next is milestone in the development of realistic fiction. So, ang kaniya siya is ang mga story nga ang sikat sa una nga panahon. So, we have here 1719, Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe, England. And the significance of this story is it is early survival or adventure on a desert island. Imitators include the Swiss family Robinson by Johann Wyss, 1812, Switzerland. 1868, Little Women by Louise May Alcott, US. Popular early family story. 1876, The Adventure of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain, US. Classic adventure story set along the Mississippi River. 1877, Black Beauty by Anna Sewell, England. Early animal story deploring inhumane treatment of horses. 1880, Heidi by Johann Spyri by Switzerland. An early international story popular in the United States. 1883, Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, England. Classic adventure story pirates. 1908, Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery, Canada. Early family story about an orphan and her new family. 1911, The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson, Burnett, US. A classic sentimental novel of two children adjusting to life. 1938, The Yearling by Marjorie Kinans, Roller, US. classic animal story and coming of age story. 1964, Harriet the Spy by Louis Fitzhugh U.S. The beginning of the new realism movement. 1970, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume, U.S. Early book with frank treatment of puberty and physical maturation. That's all. Thank you.
So, by the way, I am Lucy Baldosa Pipito. So, I am the next reporter. My assigned task is all about the topics in realistic fiction. So, realistic fiction highlights the child's world of relationships with self and others, the joys, sorrows, challenges, adjustment, anxieties, and satisfactions of human life. And realistic books often address more than one aspect of human life. Thus, some realistic fiction books can be categorized by more than one of the following topics. Okay, so these are the first one. We have relationships within families. So this is the story about children and their relationships with parents and siblings are a natural focus. Okay, relasyon sa usa ka pamilya, sa ginikanan ug sa iyang mga anak. Then most children spend their childhood in close contact with family members. Okay, and all children have the right to find themselves and their families in books, including single-parent families, adoptive families, foster families, same-sex parents, intended families, separated families, and reconstructed families of step-parents and step-children. Okay, so kanina ay relationship within families na di siya mga lain-lain mga kinds of families na gina-consider as a families in books. Okay, so mao lagi to nga mao na ay mga single parent families, adoptive, mga same-sex parents, intended parents or families, kasagaran na po yung mga separated families. Then, modern to katong, so kung separated, then makakita og new, ang parents na po, so mo na ginatawag na punatawag step parents, and na po iban nga na anak daan, so we also call that step children. Okay, so now this time the second one, we have peer friendships and bullies. Okay, so this is many realistic stories show children figuring out how to get along with peers and how to develop close friendships in school and neighborhood settings. So many recent books focus on bullying in school and the ways in which emotional and physical abuse can endanger and isolate a child, with some portraying the abuses in vivid details. So, naapod yung mga books or mga real life or mga realistic stories, ma'am dyan kasagara, labi na kung makakita mo o video or mga videos or movies, nga naaman dyan kasagaraan sa circle of friends na dyan na ang bullies, labi na itong mga kuan ba ka na bitang mga popular mga bata. So naaman sila makita mga down na kaayo or kanabitang mga nerd, mga ana. So ginabullies jud na siya until na, so kasagaran jud na aman jud na siya until now, mga realistic jud kay siya nga stories na jud ang bullying at school. So mo nang uban nga na ay time as you can makakuan mo sa mga salida nga muundang na dili na mo pa dahil eskwela tungod kay mahadlok or ginabuli na gid kayo sila ayo. So mo na ay So as you can see on the meaning. Okay. So next we have physical, emotional, mental, and behavioral challenges. So many children must deal with difficult challenges in their lives. Some children have disabilities. Oh, so kani nang kasagara ani is naadyoy mga, not all but naadyoy kasagara ang mga bata or mga children nga naadyoy mga disabilities or girls, and others have family members or a friend with disability. Ug naapoy uban nga magikan jud na sa family, naa sila friends or na sa circle of family nga naay disability. So we have these abilities may be. So the first one we have physical. It is such as scoliosis. So kaning scoliosis is kuan siya, a condition in which there is a side-to-side curve of the spine cord. Okay. And next we have emotional, such as bipolar disorder. So kasagara man dun sa to nga nakabalo na jud kung unsa ning mga bipolar. Oo. That is a mental health condition that affects someone's modes, so that they can sometimes feel depressed or sad, magulanon, dun mahutdan sila mga paglaom or wa na sila energy. And others pod usahay ang kaning mga bipolar is makakuan pa ni sila, napod silang mood ang pila, grabe sila ka energetic o grabe sila ka excited. Next we have mental, such as intellectual or learning disabilities. So kani namji kasagara daghan medyo mga condition nga nagaapekto ani nga disability kana bitang they can learn easily, mga miana. Then we have behavioral, such as hyperactivity and combination of this. So murag kasagaran man pud siguro sa to nga naa man jay nakaila or nabaslay manghud or like niana nganing na ay behavior nga mga grabe ka hyper nga bata kana bitang dili mahimutang wala sila buhaton dapat or wala sila buhaton dayon basta kan di sila makahimutang nga maglingkod na sila ginahanglan na sa magliklihok sila or maghunahuna na sila kung silang pambuhaton may miana then apoy usahay nga ay kana pong mga hyperactivity, more energy dyan na sila daghan kina sila energy mo di gid sila di sila makapuyo nga maglingkod lang. Okay, next we have life within local and global community. Kana pong mga hyperactivity, more energy dyan na sila daghan kina sila energy mo di gid sila di sila makapuyo nga maglingkod lang. Okay. Next, we have life within local and global communities. Okay, so in some books, the community occurs within the school settings, and other books, the community settings is a neighborhood. Living in a diverse community involves establishing significant relationships that go across gender and race, but this diversity can also be a source of racism and discrimination.
So, interaction with animals. Animal story continue to be a top choice as readers. The animal protagonist in realistic animal fiction behaves like an animal and is not personified. So, ang animal stories kasagara ang ginapili sa mga readers or mambabasa kay kasagara man ang mga bata if mag-story ta about animals dali ra sila makasabot or mas maganahan sila maminaw if about animal story ang atong gina-story or ginabasa og dali ra pud sila makagain og attention through animal stories. Then animals are frequently the main characters in the fictures books where the story is realistic. Although technically these books are classified as fantasy, they focus on realistic events without fantastic or magical events. So, Animal stories frequently the main characters in the pictures books. So mostly pod ang main characters sa mga pictures book mostly makita nato is mga animals. But kani nga mga book is nakafocus siya sa mga real story or real events without fantastic or kanang mga magical na mga element. Letting animals play out human roles provides intellectual and emotional distance and often a safe space for young children to reflect on the issues and choices in their lives. So, so letting animals play out human roles, it provides critical thinking and emotional to often safe, especially para sa mga young children. So, the thrill of sports, mystery, and adventure. Sports, mysteries, and adventures remain popular genres that wide appeal, particularly for the reluctant readers. Sports stories often present a story in which a child struggles to become accepted as member of a team and eventually succeed through determination and hard work. So, the thrill of sports and mystery and adventure is nagpabilin siyang popular genres or gina-admire siya hangtod karon that makes interesting or attractive especially para sa mga children and also to the readers. Example ani nga book is Scavenger by Jennifer Bentham. So in this book, two children race around dodging thugs and solving codes and ciphers left behind by the creator of an online game. So, gender and sexuality. Children explore their gender identities and express themselves in ways that challenge expected gender behaviors. For example, in Moms Michael White and the Tangerine Phrase by Kristen Palacino and Isabel Melenpant. So, ang gender and sexuality, it is a way of people experience and express themselves sexually through sa ilang mga expected challenge to their behaviors. Like for example, in Morris Michaelite and Tangerine Dress by Kristen Baldacchino and Isabel Malenfant. So si Morris love niya mo wear og tangerine dress from the dress up center even though yang mga classmate himuon siya og katawanan, but he uses imagination to win them over. So, difficult decision and coming age. Characters in many realistic fiction novels face moment of crisis situation of great difficulty or events in which decision can change their life. So, sa mga characters po or in many realistic novel fiction, nakaagi po ni sila og crisis or difficult life decision and his and her own life. So, mostly sa tuwa man God is hirap jud mag-decision. So, ato pang hunahon kung tama ba ang atong ginadesisyon sa atong life, especially sa mga kabataan karon. From birth to age 10, most children lives evolve around family, friends, and classmates, but during the pre-10 and 10 years, shift towards self-discovery and independence occur. So, simula sa pagkakanakan hanggang sa mag-edad na ang naog 10 ang bata, kadaghanan sa mga bata is nagpuyo sa ilang family but hinahinay na nila na discovery kanang magkahantong na sila. Rapid growth and change are seen as physical, emotional, moral, and intellectual domains of life has changed, and the struggles encountered as children move towards adulthood are referred to as coming of age stones. So their rapid growth change through sa ilang physical and emotional, moral and intellectual domain of life. These change and struggles encountered in their move toward adulthood referred as coming to the age stones. So kanang in that way, diha na nila ma-encountered ang mga struggles or mga difficult decision na sa ilang life kanang magkahantong ang naang isa ka bata.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Merlin Quijano, and my report is about reader connection, paired character trait books. Realistic stories in which characters are faced with difficult life choices can engage children in considering their core values. A powerful piece of literature can address the complexities of how these values play out in actual life situations, resisting simplistic doctrines of right and wrong. Moralizing is seldom appreciated by children. So, character traits are all the aspects of a person's behavior and attitudes that make up the person's personality. Realistic stories consist of stories that could have actually occurred to people or animals in a believable setting. So based on real life and fictional characters within these stories react similarly to real people. Paired sets a picture book for the six values identified by the Josephson Institute of Ethics as core values of or character traits can provoke through provoking discussion. For each value, a picture book that addresses the trait provoked in a straightforward manner can be paired with a book that raises questions about the situational complexity of a value, questioning, for example, whether it is always wrong to tell a lie. So, at the end of this book, and children is makakuha gid og siyag moral lesson. So trustworthiness, build trust through integrity, honesty, loyalty, promise keeping. So trustworthiness, so it is the ability to rely on as honest or truthful, or ability to keep promises. Respect, honor and dignity and worth of each person. So respect, it is an act of giving particular attention. So next is responsibility. So responsibility shows accountability, self-control, self-reliance, persistence, hardworking traits. So responsibility, it is a fact of having a duty to deal with something or having control over someone. Next is fairness. Demonstrate consistent, careful decision making, equitable treatment. So fairness, so it is a state of being fair. Fair or impartial treatment, lack of favoritism toward one side or another. Next is caring. So caring is be kind, compassionate, empathetic, forgiving, and grateful. So caring, it is a feeling or showing concern for or kindness to others. So a caring people are polite, considerate, generous, affectionate, patient, understanding, loving, and forgiving. So a caring is making someone feel special. So next is citizenship. Obey laws, improve well-being of others, engage in active participation. So citizenship, it is a status of being a citizen along with the rights, duties, and privileges of being a citizen. So next is realistic fiction present familiar situation with which children can readily identify and portrays settings not as different from the homes, schools, towns, and cities in which they live or hear about in the news. The protagonists of these stories are frequently testing themselves as they grow toward adulthood. So since realistic fiction, familiar gid ni siya sa every children kay it shows settings nga same ra usually sa atong makita like homes, schools, and forest bakaha. So next is the invitations for further investigation. So In small groups, read and discuss a paired picture book set for one of the character values. So you will read and discuss a sample of a paired picture book in front of the students and kanang makakuha sila moral lesson. So next is create a list of favorite childhood books or stories that have stayed in your memory. So if naa kay nahinumduman nga mga stories nga favorite nimo sa bata pa ka, create kag list ana. So next is select a realistic fiction novel and create a heart map that shows ideas, values, and hope that to one of the main characters. Next is select and read several winners of the Edgar Allan Award for the juvenile mystery novel. Next is select 10 to 15 realistic fiction novels suitable for a particular grade level. And lastly, gather a set of picture books that use animals as main characters. So maghatag kag set of picture books nga ang main characters are animals. And that's all.